Hello everybody! This is a different video today, or a different kind of video. For people who follow me on my Instagram, you may have seen a couple of weeks ago I posted a thing like, oh, you know, it would be really fun if someone wrote a story that was Westworld but ABDL. I wrote it. Well, I've started writing it. Rather. I have 19 pages and over 8,000 words. The main character's still in her first day in the park. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'll just read you guys the first little bit of it. We'll call it the first chapter. Yeah. So, prepare thyself. I've not really written this as an erotica. I've more written it as basically a story that has ABDL elements to it. So it's not the porniest porn to ever porn, if that makes sense. It's just a story, okay? Just think about it this way. It's a nice story and things happen and the robots don't turn murderous. Spoilers. Okay, I just wanted to say a couple of things before I start reading. So the main way in that this park differs is to like Westworld is that you can be sent there for like mental health therapy purposes. I just thought that would be interesting, not in any way saying that ABDL or kink in general is necessarily a good way to go about achieving, you know, help with your mental health. I will definitely say that ABDL has been a comfort to me for my anxiety and for my depression, but I am in no way a mental health professional, and yeah, I don't advocate forcibly sending people to ABDL therapy camps. It's just, I just thought it would be interesting, really. Okay. Here we go. Let's read the story. It's called LittleLand. Vanessa's condition was worsening. It was becoming borderline impossible for the young woman to leave the safety of her bed and head to work. Instead, she would rise, tearfully ring the absenteeism line, and explain to the operator that she once again had a stomach bug, or a cold, or a migraine. Even on days when the anxiety seemed less severe, she would sit at her desk and stare at the computer screen, willing her fingers to type reports that were at this point well past due. But she couldn't muster the strength necessary to work. Felt as if she'd forgotten how to concentrate. All she could think about was the broadness of the world and the kinds of unkind people who lived there, outside her door. The HR rep had pulled her aside and into meeting room C. Her manager was becoming concerned, he said. Vanessa had previously been one of their top-performing employees, and her lack of legible work of late reflected badly on them as a company. So, they sent her to therapy. At first, it helped, and Vanessa returned to her workplace with a newfound resolve. She would work as hard as she could, she would type those reports, she would make an effort to converse in the break room, and she would no longer call in sick. It took only 2 weeks for this newfound resolve to disappear, and again she was gently hauled to meeting room C. This cycle repeated itself twice more before she was given an ultimatum. Visit the park for a month-long stay, or resign. Vanessa did not relish this thought. She knew that her employer had been more than fair in their support of her, and she hated to say no, but she couldn't bear the thought of leaving her home for as long as a month. Especially not the thought of exchanging her comfortable, however untidy, home for a place like the park. Vanessa returned to her desk and collected her belongings. She distributed the stationery amongst her colleagues, wished them a tight-lipped farewell, and left the building. Now unemployed, Vanessa visited her therapist, Dr. Nora Berry, weekly. She would sit on a couch in the doctor's tastefully decorated office, clutching a box of tissues between 2 clenched fists, a crumple of spent wet paper in her lap, and pour her heart out. It had been weeks since she last brushed her teeth or hair. Piles of laundry grew around her machine, and on the floor in the bedroom, and in the bathroom. Her curtains remained shut. Remnants of last week's meal sat congealing in a full sink. Her therapist listened patiently, taking notes. She suggested medication, which Vanessa took dutifully. She suggested mindfulness exercises, which Vanessa had neither the energy for nor the interest in. Painfully anxious at the thought of disappointing anyone who even closely resembled an authority figure, Vanessa did not admit this to her therapist. Instead, she'd return to bed, crawl under the covers, and cry, only emerging periodically to eat a banana in an effort to stave off starvation. Then, a time came when Vanessa would call the receptionist from beneath the covers, again with a stomach bug, or a cold, or migraine. Eventually, she ceased booking appointments altogether, opting instead to remain inside, where it was safe. Then, on Tuesday, her usual therapy day, the phone rang. The voice on the other end sounded concerned. "I'm concerned," confirmed her therapist. "When we last spoke, you didn't seem to be doing very well." She glanced around the room at the piles of laundry and week-old banana peels. It was true. Vanessa hadn't been doing very well. "I'm assembling a group of patients to send to the park," continued her therapist. "I think it would be a good idea if you were part of that group." And that was it. Vanessa joined the group and boarded the train headed for the park. She didn't like to say no to Dr. Nora, and she'd become extremely weary of bananas. The park wasn't actually named so, but that's how it was referred to. It was actually called LittleLand, but the cloyingly sweet title seemed satirical given the size of the area. LittleLand was a vast expanse of roughly 64 square kilometers. It was, realistically, an island the size of a small town. According to the brochures, LittleLand was a purpose-built and intricately designed facility to provide regression therapy and recreation for adults. Vanessa knew what that meant. She was a basket case who would now spend a month being infantilized at the mercy of, again, according to the brochure, fully automated and seamlessly scaled android caregivers and staff. She had no interest in any of the recreation options, which included excursions to snowy forests, dense jungles, and magical castles. Nor did she particularly care for day trips to tropical islands or swashbuckling adventures on the high seas. Had the circumstances been different, of course, Vanessa would have been intrigued. If she was bound for another park using similar technology, Vanessa could have perhaps felt some sort of excitement. As it was, Vanessa only felt anxiety. Anxiety with a hint of nausea. Vanessa threw the brochure down in disgust and rested her chin on the windowsill. "The floor is in a bin," came a voice. Vanessa considered feigning a hearing impairment for a moment before she looked up and in the direction of the voice. A young man with a shock of red hair and a crooked tie was extending his arm towards her, the brochure in his hand. "Oh, sorry," she mumbled, taking the brochure and setting it in her lap. "Not a problem," he responded cheerfully, his freckled face breaking into a smile as he slid into the seat opposite her. "What's your name?" he asked, his tone light. Vanessa was taken aback. She hadn't reckoned with the reality that she would have to talk to strangers in this place, much less strangers who chided her for littering. Now that she thought about it, the park was likely to be full of this exact, albeit specific, type of stranger. "Vanessa," she said. "That's a short name," said the man, pulling a chocolate biscuit out of his suit jacket lining. "Mine is Aidan James Phillips." Aidan James Phillips unwrapped the biscuit and took a large bite, crumbs tumbling down the front of his shirt. "Most people don't bother with their whole name when they're just meeting someone." Aidan shrugged. "I like my whole name," he said, further crumbs escaping his mouth. "Aidan, not so much, but then when you add the James it starts getting good, and then BAM!" he shouted suddenly, the glob of chewed biscuit briefly visible on his tongue. "I hit him with the Phillips." He swallowed. "That's what really wows him." Confused, Vanessa narrowed her eyes slightly as she regarded him in silence for a moment. "Vanessa Ann Henbury," she said, her brow furrowing. "Ah, see?" said Aidan. "Now that's a name." Vanessa's brow relaxed and she gave a little smile. My dog just made a hilarious noise. Vanessa's brow relaxed and she gave a little smile despite her confusion. Aidan seemed friendly, but Vanessa's relentless anxiety was keeping her guarded. "So why are you here?" he asked, slipping the biscuit wrapper into his pocket. "Are you one of Dr. Nora's?" Vanessa wondered if Aidan was supposed to ask a question like that. Wasn't the park like prison, where asking such a question was considered a faux pas? Or was that whole concept something she just picked up from TV? Why did he want to know, though? Would he laugh? Would he drop his goofy pretense and turn hostile? Or was he just being polite, trying to make conversation? Even trying to make a friend? Aidan smiled cautiously at her silence and cocked his head to one side like a small spotted dog as he waited for her to answer. Vanessa realized the question had been genuine. Yes, she said, glancing towards the brochure in her lap. "Me too," said Aidan. "I got fired for being a so-called obnoxious distraction," he said, somehow with a hint of both frustration and pride. "The doctor thought this would help me with something she calls social skills. Whatever that means," he said, with a comically exaggerated eye roll. "I called in sick too much," said Vanessa, regarding her hands, which had begun to crumple the brochure. "I just couldn't..." She trailed off. "Oh, I get it," said Aidan, nodding. "Sometimes it's just too hard to face the day." Vanessa nodded her agreement and smiled at him gratefully. Aidan was genuine, Vanessa decided. "But hey, it's not all that bad," said Aidan, who reached over and gently took the brochure from her. He opened it up and pointed to a picture on the glossy page. "They have boats!" "Yeah, but," said Vanessa, taking the brochure and pointing to another smaller picture on the pamphlet's reverse side. "That." Aidan studied the image Vanessa had pointed to. A blush began to spread across his freckled nose and cheeks. "I don't care how much fun a pirate adventure sounds if I have to do it while I'm wearing one of those," she said, her nose wrinkling. "I mean, you're not wrong, but..." His brows knitted together in concentration. "It could be a time saver?" he tried, weakly. "Not having to find a bathroom?" Vanessa winced and attempted to ignore the very real reality of her situation. It wasn't a very effective endeavour, and her brain continued to swirl with unpleasant thoughts of what was to come when the train stopped. "Okay then," said Vanessa, pointing to another paragraph and proffering it to Aidan. "Put a positive spin on this one." Aidan's blush deepened as his eyes scanned the pamphlet. Vanessa crumpled the brochure up entirely and once again dropped it to the floor of the train. Yeah, but think about it this way." Aidan paused for a moment, his gaze directed to the clump of paper on the floor, and his effervescent speaking voice muted. It might help cure you of your littering problem." And that's the first bit. They're not even at the park yet. This is just turning into an odyssey. Oh, cool. Darcy's Odyssey. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, if you liked it, I'll put up more bits. But I've been having a lot of fun writing it, so I'll probably put up more bits anyway. So, yeah. Okay, bye everybody. Have a nice day.